So we have this one, the right angle triangle. Very first thing that we discussed in the last year, that was the sine of x, sine of the angle. That is called the perpendicular upon base. And then we have the cos of x. That is called base upon, sorry, this one is, if I'm not wrong, this one is not base, that one is hypotenuse. And this one is called the base upon hypotenuse. The last trigonometric ratios we discussed in the AS level, that was perpendicular upon base. So in any right angle triangle, we have three things. The first one is called the sine. Sine is a trigonometric ratio which is obtained by dividing the length of the perpendicular by its hypotenuse. And the cos of the trigonometric ratio, which we divide, which will obtain by dividing the base upon hypotenuse. And the last one is the tan. Tan is the perpendicular upon base. And already we have one sentence to memorize these three ratios. And sentence, you know that some people have curly brown hair through proper brushing. Now we have this one. According to this one, we have other informations as well. What are the other informations? We know that whenever we have a right angle triangle, then we have the Pythagoras theorem that says the perpendicular square plus base square is always is equal to the h square. That is called the Pythagoras theorem. And this theorem we have to apply in many cases whenever we have two sides of given length and we have to find the third side. The next one is after these these three ratios. Now I will discuss the course of A2 level or the A levels. The first one is called over here. The first thing is that is called, the first one is called over here, if I'm not wrong, that will be the uh, cosine of an angle. Cosine of an angle. What's the meaning of this one? Cosine of an angle is uh, cosine of an angle, it is reciprocal. It is a reciprocal of sine of that angle. Sine of that angle. What's the meaning of this one? I will explain over here. Cosine of x means, suppose that we have the cosine. Cosine is the abbreviation of the word. Cosine is the abbreviation of the word over here. That is called the cosine. Cosine of an angle, very sorry, that is called cosecant, not cosine. That is called cosecant. And cosecant, C-O-S-C-C, is the abbreviation of the word cosecant of an angle, is equal to the reciprocal of sine of that angle. That's the concept. What's the meaning of this one? Suppose over here, if I have cosecant of 30 degree. We can't calculate this one without the help of the calculator. So I have to find 1 over sine of 30 degree. So whenever I have the word cosec, C-O-S-E-C, cosec is the abbreviation of the word cosecant, and that is the abbreviation of this one. The second one, the second information is that is called secant of an angle. S-E-C-A-N-T, secant of an angle. What is secant of an angle? Secant of an angle is the reciprocal of cosine of an angle. So you have to write this one as, I will change the color of the marker, or suppose this one is the blue. Secant of an angle. secant of an angle is reciprocal of cosine of that angle. I am using the word cosine of that angle. What's the meaning of this one? Suppose if I want to write the secant, SEC. SEC, secant is the abbreviation of the word. You can read this one as secant as well as sec. So secant of an angle x always equal to the 1 over cos of x. So that's the second definition. Secant of an angle means the 1 over cos of x. Similarly, if you want to find secant of suppose 25 degree, so you have to calculate 1 over cos of 25 degree, if I'm not wrong. And the last trigonometric ratio, because we have the 6 trigonometric ratios, and the last trigonometric ratio will be cotangent of an angle. So if I have to find cotangent of an angle, cotangent, cotangent of an angle. What's the meaning of cotangent of an angle? Cotangent, C-O-T-A, cotangent of an angle is a reciprocal of tangent of that angle. Tangent of that angle. So what's the meaning of tangent of that angle? That's very simple. So COT, cot, that is the abbreviation of the word cotangent. Angle will be given, angle may be x, maybe y, maybe z. So angle will be x over here. That is equal to 1 over tan of x. So that's the information that you have to use over here. So these three ratios we will use in A2 level. So we will use in A2 levels. What's the meaning of this one? The first one is cosecant. Cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine. And then we have the secant. Secant is the abbreviation of the cos. And the last one, we have the cotangent or the cot. Cot is the of the reciprocal of tan. These three things we have to consider. Now we have to write another word over here. Suppose I have to move this over here. Then we have some basic results. What are the basic results over here? The first one, you have to write the formulas. First formula, we have this one. If you have any angle, that is called cosecant. Cosecant of x, that is equal to the 1 over sine of x. The second one is equal to the, if we have the secant, SCC, secant of x, that will be equal to 1 over cos of x. And the last one is equal to the, if I have to write cot of x, that will be equal to 1 over tan of x. Now I have to use the calculator. Just a minute, I have to use the calculator over here. Okay. Just use your calculator, then I will find the answer over here. You have to use calculator. I will use the calculator over here. The first one is the first example. I will change the color of the marker over here. Wait a minute. So if I have to find the answer of cosecant of suppose of 45 degree. If I have to find cosecant of 45 degree, that will be is equal to the 1 over sine of 45 degree. And 1 over sine of 45 degree, you will use the find, that becomes root 2 by 2. And when you will use your calculator by taking the reciprocal, so you have 2 by root 2. And your calculator give you the answer under root 2. Remember that in your calculator, there is no sign of the cosecant. These three ratios, which we have discussed in today's lecture, these three ratios, cosecant, secant, and cot, these ratios are not given in the calculators. So we have to remember as it is. And when you are applying this one, first of all, you will find the answer of the reciprocals, and then you have to take its reciprocal as a whole. Suppose I want to find what's the answer of secant of, suppose, 60 degree. We can't find this one as secant of the 60 degree. It becomes this cos of 60 degree. And we know that the cos of 60 degree is equal to the root 3 by 2. Sorry, if I'm using the calculator, that will be 1 by 2, not 2. And final answer, that will becomes 2. Suppose we have this one, you want to find the value of the tan of 30 degree. There is, sorry, not tan, we have to find the cot of 30 degree. So cot of 30 degree becomes 1 over tan of 30 degree. And when I have to use a calculator, that becomes 1 by root 3. Don't remember these values. You have to use the calculator a lot. So 1 by root 3 becomes simple root 3. So these are the values of trigonometric ratios. The next one is the first information that we have discussed about AS level. That was the solution of trigonometric equations. Just I will revise. Solution of trigonometric equations. Solution of trigonometric equation. First, I will revise the concept of the A levels, AS levels. Then I will solve the A2 levels. In AS level, you have discussed two type of the equations. The first one, suppose we have this one is a root 3 times sine of x plus 2 is equal to the 0, and those values of x you have to calculate. According to the revision of according to the revision of AS level, we have to shift the trigonometric ratio one side, just like this one. Sine of x is equal to the minus 2 by root 3. Now you have to find in which quadrant these two, the sine ratio is always negative according to this question. Before starting this one, you have to find the basic angle. How will calculate the basic angle? You have to take the inverse trigonometric ratio of this expression, and you have to select the positive values. So you have to find sine inverse of 2 by root 3. When you use the calculator, you will get sine inverse of 2 by root 3. That becomes 60 degree. So 60 degree is the basic angle of this equation. 60 degree is the basic angle of this equation. Now what will you do? You have to make the quadrants. I will make the quadrants just like this one. The first one is over here. Then you have to write the second quadrant. Similarly, you have to make the other coordinates, and similarly, you have to make this one. Now you have to draw the lines by different colors because you know that the answer of the sine is -2 by root 3. You have to find in which quadrant the sign is negative. I know that the sign is negative in the third quadrant and sign is negative in the fourth quadrant, if I'm not wrong. Now you have to write the basic angle. Basic angle is that angle which is between the x-axis, which is acute and always positive. So there are three characteristics of this basic angle. What are the characteristics? That will be always positive between axes. So this blue line in the first shape, first diagram, this blue line is having this one. And remember that in this diagram, that is called the coordinate planes and it is also called the angles. So that is called the first quadrant, that is called the second quadrant, that is called the third quadrant, and that is called the fourth quadrant. Previously, you know that the sign is negative in third and fourth quadrant. That's why I have to make a straight line starting from origin and lying in the third quadrant. So basic angle is that angle which is with x-axis and acute angle. So there are two angles between x-axis and this line. The first angle is this one. The second angle is this one. But out of these two angles, one is acute angle and the second is obtuse angle. So we will ignore the obtuse angle in this case because the basic angle is always acute angle. So we will not consider this angle. So we have to consider this angle, and this angle is of 60 degree. And this angle is of 60 degree. Similarly, I have to make the basic angle, and this angle is called again of 60 degree. But when you are writing the answer of the angle, you have to start the angle from the positive x-axis. You have to start angle from the positive x-axis, just like this one, green color angle. So you have to start from here and you have to move up to this line. You have to start from here, you have to move up to this line. So this angle in the third quadrant, so the third quadrant means 180 degree plus 60 degree. So that angle becomes 180 degree plus 60 degree. And this angle, that becomes 360 degree minus 60 degree. So the first answer of the angle will be 240 degree, if I'm not wrong. And this angle will be 300 degree. So these are two angles. Over here, the first angle, that is name of the angle is x. The second angle is x is equal to 360, 300 degree. So that's the way to solve the equation. That's the way to solve the equations. And that equation is called the linear trigonometric equation. The same concept you have to apply, the same concept you have to apply in solving the given equations. Okay, what's the meaning of this one given equation? Suppose I have this one, the equation of the A2 levels. If I'm not wrong, the equation may be just like this one. If have the question is just like this one, question is solve three times cosecant of x minus, suppose that plus 4 equal to 0, and you have to find the value of from 0 to 360 degree. So how you will solve this one? As I said, there is no information is given over here. The calculator will not allow to solve the question with the help of cosecant, secant, and cot. So first of all, you have to write the trigonometric ratio on one hand side. So cosecant of x is equal to the minus 4 by 3. As we know that there is no trigonometric ratio in your calculator, you have this one. So what will you do? What will you do? You have to change this one in the form of over here. So I will write this one as sine of x. That is minus 4 by 3. That becomes minus 3 by 4. Again, you have to apply the same knowledge already we have discussed. You have to observe in which quadrant the sign is negative. You have to observe in which quadrant the sign is negative. So you have to write this one as in which quadrant the sign is negative. Okay, for my opinion, just I have to change because so that you can understand. I will this plus becomes minus. This minus become plus. So that the other two terms, minus over here, plus over here, and plus over here. Now again, we have the fourth quadrant, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we have to observe in which quadrant the sign is positive. The sign is positive in first quadrant as well as in second quadrant. I have to make the line over here. That is called the first quadrant. And I have to make the line over here. That is called the second quadrant. Now, what will you do? Very simple. You have to find the basic angle. Use your calculator and find the what's the basic angle. I'm using the calculator. So basic angle will be sine inverse of 3 by 4. Wait a minute. I have the application of the basic angle. Just wait over here. So sine inverse of 3 by 4. So basic angle of 3 by 4 is by using your calculator, answer will be equal to the, that is a shift over here. That's a sine inverse just like this one. Whatever the angle is, because I don't have the calculator, so you have to write over here. That will be as it is, sine inverse of 3 by 4. And similarly, that angle will be the sine inverse of 3 by 4. So the first my answer will be the same. X is equal to the sine inverse of 3 by 4. You have to use the calculator. And same over here. That angle you want to find, that becomes 180 minus sine inverse of 3 by 4. So you have to use these two answers. 180 minus sine inverse of 3 by 4. Okay, my next topic is, these are the two examples. The next I have this one. Identities of trigonometric ratios. Very basic identities. identities of trigonometric ratios. Trigonometric ratios. The first identity already we have in AS level. That was not one, we have the two. The first one is sine square of x plus cos square of x always is equal to 1. That's the first identity already we have in our previous classes. And further from here, we have two results. If I'm not wrong, I will use the red color over here. There are two results was, if I want to find the answer of the sine square of x, that will be equal to the 1 minus cos square of x. Or I have to write cos square of x in terms of, I have to write 1 minus sine square of x. The second result, that was very, very important. That was the tan of a trigonometric ratio always is equal to the sine of that trigonometric angle divided by the cosine cos of that angle. These two ratios already we have done in previous class, means AS level. Now I have to draw, I have to calculate, I have to make the other two identities. The first one is, as we know that whenever we have a right angle triangle, just like this one, whenever we have the right angle triangle, we have any right angle triangle. So what will do, already we know the information about this one is, that is called base. That is called perpendicular. And that is called the hypotenuse. That is the 90-degree angle, and this angle is any acute angle. So always we have this one, b square. We have always b square plus p square is equal to the h square. Always we have this one. In previous topic, the very first topic, I explained three things over here. What are the three things? Just like this one. What happened this one? The frame one. So this frame, whenever we have any right angle triangle, we know that b square plus p square always equal to the b square plus p square always equal to the h square. I have to make two results. The first result relating the secant and tan. So what's the meaning of the secant? As we know that secant of any angle x, that is equal to the 1 over cos of x. And we know that the cos of x is equal to the base over h. And that becomes h over b, if I'm not wrong. The second, I have to make the second result, the tan. Tan of any angle is equal to the perpendicular upon base. Similarly, if we have cosecant, cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine, and sine is perpendicular upon h, it becomes h upon perpendicular. So dividing whole equation by b square, I have to make a result. The derivation of the result is not in your syllabus. Dividing by b square. So what will you get? Dividing by b square means b square over b square. You have to divide each and every term of this equation by the b square. B square over b square. And the last one is h square over b square. Now what will you write? If the denominator and the numerator are same, then these two terms will be cancelled out. And when denominator and numerator are cancelled out, we have just this one plus. And when the denominator and the numerator are the same powers, so you have to write p upon b whole square. That becomes the whole power. And over here, h over b whole raised to power 2. So what will you do over here? 1 as it is, no change, plus as it is, the perpendicular upon base. Perpendicular upon base is always tan. So you have to write tan of x whole square is equal to the h upon b. If no information, where is h upon b is that one. So that will be equal to the secant of x. And the final result, I will get 1 plus tan square of x is equal to the secant square of x. That's a very important result. We have to use this result in many equations to solve the further questions. So whenever you have to solve a question, you have to use this result. 1 plus tan square x is equal to the secant square x. 1 plus tan square of x is equal to the secant square of x. Similarly, you have to apply another result over here. What is another result? Because I have to solve the parallel question over here. The same concept you have to apply over here. No, I will solve with the help of the blue marker, just like this one. The same one is b square plus p square is equal to the h square. Now you have to divide. Dividing by p square. What will you get? B square by p square plus p square by p square and h square by p square. What will you get after solving this one? We know that if you have the perpendicular and if you have the numerator and denominator with the same power, that becomes the whole power. So b upon p, it becomes the whole square. Denominator and numerator are same, then they will be cancelled out. And when denominator and numerator are same, cancel out, you will get the answer 1 is equal to the. Say now we have this one is h upon p. That becomes the whole square. So what was this result is b upon p. Am not wrong. Then I will have this one b upon p. That becomes cot of x. Plus I have 1 will remain as it is. Again, h upon p becomes cosecant of x whole square. As we know that the square of a trigonometric ratio becomes its square of trigonometric ratio. So cot square of x plus 1 is equal to the cosecant